like that. It's good. It's very emo. I like it.
Yeah, it's emo. Okay. All right. Welcome to Run, Race, Repeat, the live show where we talk about all things running, training, and racing. My name is Doug Pierce, coming to you from Staten Island, New York, and I am joined by my partner in crime, Brett Almacy from Dover, Maine. Brett, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, Doug. Well, first of all, I forgot to tell you, it's actually Dover Foxcroft.
Oh.
But long story, but we'll keep Dover for now. That's fine.
Okay, I my apologies. I beg forgiveness.
No, I'm not like offended, but people who are from here probably would just, I'm from Foxcroft. I'm not from the Dover area. I'm from Foxcroft. Okay, relax.
Gotcha. Okay, so today I'm very excited because you're going to be sharing with us your Boston qualification story. And I don't think I've got the full story from you yet, so I'm really looking forward to this one because, we'll get to it later. But Brett, he actually qualified for Boston on his very first marathon back in 2015. Then
14.
he had 14. Really?
Right.
That long ago? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Time flies.
I know.
But then you got bumped, which is like the worst when you. It's like bump. It's like the worst when you qualify, but then you get bumped because other people qualified with faster times than you, and then I think you get a little chip on your shoulder. You decided you're gonna qualify again. You had at least a few more marathons, right, where we just couldn't put it together like you did.
Yeah.
And then that changed last year for the Maine Marathon last fall in October. And we're going to learn from you, what changed with your training that let you have the ability to, get that BQ again. Not just a BQ, but a PR, right? You PR'd.
A PR.
Yeah.
5 years after my first, a PR.
Yeah. So there's the tease. We're going to get to that. But first...
Are you breathing hard?
It's the check. That is not me.
What was that?
Brett, when I get on a stream with you, I just can't help but get hot and bothered.
That was some. What was that?
That's supposed to be a runner running.
Jesus, I didn't know what was going on with that. All right, more power to that guy.
But this is the check-in, the segment of the show where we talk about the prior week's training. Now I went first last time, Brett. So now it's on you. How did the last week and a half training? How did that go for you?
Week and a half, Doug. Actually, I have been out there probably in the past week and a half since we last spoke. Probably 8 times in the last week and a half. And again, between the usual 3.5 to about 4.5 miles. I have noticed, though, that some fatigue today.
Okay.
And, so I'm thinking taking a day off or so, changing my shoes up. I've got a few shoes, but I've kind of used the same. Actually, I've been using the ones I wore for the marathon the last couple of months. I love the...
What are those?
It's the Reebok.
Reebok?
It's like a Reebok. Correct.
Wow.
I wore these lightweight yellow Reebok. Apparently, reading in Runner's World, they are the best racing shoes in the world.
I thought those were the Nike Vaporflies.
All right, second best.
Okay.
Legally, the legal,
okay.
best legal shoe.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And so I love these shoes, and after the last Maine marathon, I kind of didn't use them for almost maybe 6, 7, 8 months. but fatigue and I think maybe the shoe, but I think maybe taking a day off or so.
Um, okay, so when you say for fatigue, you mean your muscles are sore? You mean
My
you're
legs, it's like the first 5-10 minutes, I'm feeling it. Like I'm not sure what it is. Now my fasting routine has been a little bit out of whack. Um, Maybe eating a little bit later, having to compensate the next day by waiting until about 2-3 o'clock to eat. I mean, I think part of that is that.
okay?
Uh, but I have been running consistently with the core for the last week and a half.
Okay.
Around, I'm wearing headbands now, so I'm like wearing like tanks and headbands in a small rural town in Maine, in northern Maine, um, which is interesting.
So basically, you've gone back to the 70s. Okay.
Oh man, yeah. But I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of headbands, I mean they're great because it absorbs sweat.
Yeah.
Never a big headband person, but these are great. But anyways, I'd say a moderate, 25 miles per week in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, and of course there's no race on the calendar that you are training for, right?
No race. But however, Doug, I will say though, update on the Cinco de Mayo gate. My bling has finally been sent in the mail.
Okay.
So finally, after 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll have to show it to us on stream next week if it comes in.
Next week I will. I will, my man.
All right.
So how about you? How about you? What's going on with your training?
Good. I've actually been
Look at this.
a little bit of this.
What?
So yeah, I find myself starting a little bit of a streak, non-intentionally, because I'm 10 days in to a streak I got going on here. I actually didn't want to start a run streak because I am not, like, I think days off are good and actually contribute to better performance down the road when you really do need them. But it was kind of the thing where, like, the days I had planned to take off, my wife Rachel was like, let's go to the boardwalk and jog with the kids in the stroller. I'm like, sweet. And actually I had one day this week that I was going to take off, and my little one Emerson, she's not even 2 yet, she actually grabbed me by the hand, pulled me to the jogging stroller, and said, "Daddy, run." So we ended up going for like a 30
Wow.
like a 30-minute.
She's already learning. She's already learning the lingo and attitude, I think.
Oh yeah, she's like, "Daddy, no day off."
Daddy, don't be a
run.
momo.
Yeah, don't be
out
lazy.
there.
Run, you Sally, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm like 10 days in, and I like I said, I actually do think that like one day off a week or days off when you need them is like a good thing. But that said, I do know that running, like, I think you definitely level up when running becomes like a lifestyle thing for you, where you wake up in the morning and it's not, am I going to run today? That's not even a choice. Yes, you're going to run today. It's just a matter of how much. And when running is part of your lifestyle and you're just consistently just getting out there, you really level up when you do that. For, it takes time, of course, like anything in running, it takes time. But anyway, I'm 10 days into the run streak. Maybe I'll do this. What's the Runner's World run streak on the cover at least is like 41 days.
41.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, I'm surprised.
Is anybody watching doing the run streak, the Runner's World run streak, 41 days?
Anybody watching?
How far away how many days in are you? We'd love to know.
Yeah, Doug, maybe anybody but the people who commented before, like, let's be friends. I don't know what that's about, but like,
okay. You know what?
sketchy.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not down with that. Maybe those guys, maybe not. chime in? Because
Okay, so Brett is actually referring to we had, I don't know if they were bots or like
I don't know
people
what.
trying to
I'm not.
boost.
I'm not. I'm not tech savvy. So I don't know what.
Yeah,
It
we had a
sounded like
yeah
a little bit.
yeah we had a couple of commenters on the last streams be like, "You want to be friends? You're so talented. Do you want to be friends?"
Let's be
And
friends.
and you know what, Brett?
What?
I'm not gonna deny it. I actually, even though I knew that that was like some kind of like scammer, it still made me
You're
feel
like.
good. It still made me feel good.
You're like
I'm like, I'm
somebody.
talented. Yeah.
Some. I'm. Yes, someone enjoys this channel.
Yeah, yeah,
Enjoys this video.
yeah. But YouTube has since removed those comments because they were making those comments to
Sketchy
to
AF.
many other channels. So, but yeah. Anyway, the past
That's
weeks.
not. Wow.
But yeah, so basically, I've been doing like I'd say just short of 20 miles a week, and most of that at a very easy pace with a couple of light workouts a week. So Monday I did 8 by 2 minutes at 5K effort out on the trails, which really kicked my butt. I think I kind of overdid it a little bit on that. But today I did 10 hill repeats of 30 seconds up a moderately steep hill. And that
Is
one
this
really.
part of your? Is that part of your workout you've been doing?
So there was a time when I believed that you just needed to run like a lot of volume, and that was the most important thing. But I have changed my tune on that kind of as I return to running. And I'm now of the mind that you do need to be training all the parts of your running body basically year round in order to get the most out of yourself, but also so you don't get injured. Because if you do have this strictly old school periodized training schedule like Lydiard-esque or whatever, and you have this phase where you're just running lots of miles, and then you transition into doing more like tempo work and then like VO2 max work, I think you're much more susceptible to injury when you haven't been doing a lot, when haven't been making that a priority. You're setting yourself up to get injured, I think.
Right.
And it's much better to constantly be doing tempo work, doing VO2 max work. That way, not a lot of it year round, but definitely doing some year round. And that way, when you do, increase it in anticipation of a race, your body's used to it and you're much less likely to get injured. So I'm of the mind now where I've heard it referred to as complex training, where you're just year round, you're constantly working everything. You're doing the speed, you're obviously trying to hit some volume, you're doing some tempo work, some VO2 stuff, and you change the amount you do, given how close you are to a race and what that goal race is. But you are touching on that, on each aspect of your fitness year round. So that's kind of the philosophy that I've espoused now. But I think, Brett, that we have gone on enough about our training, and it's time to get into the main topic. And as we mentioned in the introduction, back in 2014, Maine Marathon in October, that was both of our first marathons. We actually ran this together, and you BQ'd. You qualified for Boston during that. However, the worst thing that can happen to somebody trying to get into Boston, you qualified, but you got bumped because more people qualified with faster times.
Correct.
And it bumped you out. Or they let in more charity runners.
Which, yeah, they probably did. Which
Yeah.
I saw a few in Boston, as we discussed before. So so I mean, like, what do you want to know about?
All right. Well, so first, you qualified for Boston, your first marathon back in 2014, got bumped. So then you kind of had a mission then to requalify, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, and you attempted to do it on a few marathons between then and now, and but you didn't do it. You couldn't. It didn't happen for you. And I wanted you to kind of walk us through each of those races and why you feel like it didn't come together for you.
Okay. I think so. You were there for this next race, the Pennsylvania Marathon, the
Oh,
disaster
oh yes.
and I mean I can't make any excuses. It was a humid day.
Oh, you can make
Uh,
excuses.
I really don't like that was a walking half that race. That was
Okay,
a race that
okay. Let's set the
yeah,
stage. So this was the chasing the unicorn. Is that what it's called?
correct.
Yeah. So this was the chasing the unicorn marathon in Pennsylvania in August. Right. It was in August, I believe. Right.
I believe so. Again, the accuracy of the it was around July, August.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and
Summer.
so
Basically the dog days of summer when
correct.
it's the hottest and most humid it is in the Northeast. So I think on your race day it did hit 80 if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
And
it hit probably 90, but
yeah.
and that was early. And I planned that race. I thought that would be a cakewalk in terms of like terrain,
Hmm.
weather,
Yeah.
and my training was probably 6 months, um, and I thought I was ready for it, and I wasn't. I think what happened, Doug, is why I think that didn't go well is because once I hit that half marathon um, part, I was spent.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to contribute that to at least like the lion's share to the heat and humidity. I mean, it was humid as well. It wasn't a dry heat. It was a very
It
humid heat.
was.
And
It was, Doug.
you and I are not hot weather runners. I mean, I don't think you are.
No,
You wouldn't
we
consider
are
yourself.
we are
Yeah.
we are cold weather runners.
Yeah, like
You know,
for me, the colder the temperature, the better. And I know for you, it's pretty much the same as well. So I do know, Brett, you haven't hit on a couple of things that I remember. Do you want me to touch on? So I remember you drove down from Maine to Pennsylvania the day before,
correct.
and I remember that you guys drove straight through. You did not stop to get lunch. I don't think you ate anything. I remember this pretty clearly. So you definitely were not sufficiently, carbo loading. I mean, and then it took us forever to like find a restaurant and get like you didn't eat basically until like 8 o'clock at night, which I think you were trying to desperately make up for like carbs and calories.
Yeah,
So
I think. Yeah,
yeah, and if I'm also remembering correctly, you wore like, and I don't know if this had a factor as well, but you also wore like new shoes that you never worn before, like a new outfit. So you definitely violated the nothing new on race day rule
yeah,
in
Doug.
terms of your gear.
I think I assumed that my new gear and in the lack of carb loading, I thought I'd be fine by the time race day came.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean the lack of eating the day before. I mean that's a big deal.
it
That's a,
was, it was,
that's a big
and
deal.
that was a lesson learned. I don't remember exactly. I really honestly don't remember that day at all driving there. It was a long, 10-hour at least drive.
Yeah,
And I believe I did some calories, but I don't remember exactly what I did. I think it was inefficient, anyways. But I don't know if that was. I think the drive, Doug. I think lesson learned about driving to a race, assuming that just driving there would be fine. You can just kind of get up next day and run a race and
yeah. It You don't think because you're just sitting down the entire time. You think like it's not a big deal, but
correct.
driving a
Correct.
long distance does take a lot out of you, and you don't want to be doing that the day before a race. And I think that if you can travel to a race a day prior, like 2 days out, it's much preferable to the day before.
No, you're right.
If you can, if you can swing it. Some
So
people, their schedules, they
all
can't
right,
swing it, but
exactly. So let's kind of fast forward to the next race, which was Orono.
yeah,
I
okay,
ran
yes.
the Polar Bear Marathon. I believe it was right around a 3:19, maybe. My problem, Doug, was that I traveled, 50 minutes, not a big deal. I prepped. The issue with that was I walked part of it because I did notice that in the first roughly 7 miles, 8 miles, that my shoe was red, and what happened was I basically ripped off 2 toenails in the first roughly 6, 7 miles, and it became to the point where like I didn't really realize it until halfway through that what happened, and it was painful, and I went through it. I ran a 3:19, had to walk part of it, but my foot was not great at the end of that race. It took weeks to really recover from that.
I mean, you totally lost 2 toenails. You said like they came completely
Yeah,
off.
in the same foot.
Yeah.
I was pretty solid the first half again, but then like the pain started to set in. To the point where my shoe was half red, half blood.
Yeah. And now, were these shoes you had trained in, or were these brand new shoes?
No, these were not brand new shoes. These are shoes that I trained in partially.
Okay.
But it happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It definitely happens. In fact, I
So
was, I was considering naming the show the toenails optional live show because
that was an option. And I mean,
yeah,
look, Doug. I mean, like it's kind of like after that race, I'm thinking to myself, it's even worth doing this again, and I did. And so I went to Jacksonville. I believe it was 2016, I think. I flew there. I was there 3 days before the race started. I prepped. Um, I was good. I was what?
I just know what's coming. That's why I'm laughing.
Anyways, it was good to go. I was ready for that. But I think mentally, I'm not. I just, and again, this is right around a 3, maybe 19, roughly was this race. In that mid threes, I walked again the last probably like 6 miles. Mentally, I just felt like it wasn't there for me. I felt like, for whatever reason, I just could not mentally push through running this race.
So you were spent? Were you? Did you like bonk? Did you hit the wall?
I was rough. I mean, I felt good, and then roughly mile maybe 19, 20, I just started to mentally just kind of pack it in. And that last maybe 4 to 5 miles, 6 miles, it's just that part inside you. If anyone's out there right now listening, if you're a marathon runner, if you race at all, there's part of you that gets to you when you run, and like it's easy to stop. And this is the third marathon in the row since our 2014 Maine marathon that I walked. And I questioned myself as an individual runner, can I make it in a marathon as an individual runner? And after that race, it's just, I questioned everything.
The doubts started to come in.
The doubts.
Yeah. Okay, well, now we can talk about the 2019 Maine Marathon, which you ran last October.
Correct.
And this time you not only BQ'd, but you ran a PR, a pretty good one for the marathon, right? You ran 3:01, and actually, let's. I got something here for the.
What you got for me?
Okay, so there's Brett. There's Brett crushing it in the main marathon there. Sorry, but I lost you right over there for a second. I'll bring it back. So there you were. That was Brett crushing it in the main marathon. What changed? Was this just your approach to the race? I mean, I know it wasn't, because I can just look at that picture of you, looking at you now, and looking at you running this. Clearly, things changed for you in your training and in your lifestyle, because you look a solid. You lost weight. You look way fitter in this picture than I've seen you.
Right.
So something changed. Something changed in your training. What was it? Oh, you're in your lifestyle. What changed?
All right. So I think anybody out there who aspires to, who has run races, there were two changes that I made. Actually, there were three changes for this race that I made. One of them, I questioned whether or not it was a big factor, but it could be. The first thing was, and this is something that's big, to fast, at least 6 days a week for the last couple years. So like that's what first changed for me. Because Doug.
Okay, define fasting. When you say fast?
So for me, all right. So fasting, if anyone out there wants to know what this is like, so fasting for me is, it's a 16 to 8 window where like you are not consuming any calories for 16 hours, and an 8-hour window where you are consuming calories. Okay, so basically, like, I would start eating, and again, I trained through this summer. So I was eating roughly starting around noon to 1 o'clock, and I would stop consuming calories roughly around 8 to 9 o'clock. And the same thing goes every day.
Okay.
So basically 6 days a week I was fasting, as in I was not consuming calories for 16 straight hours.
Okay. But you were still eating like 3 meals a day?
I'd say probably 2 meals a day.
2 meals a day. Okay, that's interesting. And just for our viewers, Brett, I think it's important to note that you do have a gluten intolerance,
Yes,
right?
I do. I fortunately, that's not one of those fad things where some person, like, her friends are doing it and she's like, maybe I have it. No, it's like I have a intolerance to that, but also like almost dairy to this point. So it's like I had to change up my lifestyle in terms of eating. I do still eat gluten once a month, maybe. I eat dairy here and there, but I'll tell you that dairy and gluten does play a part in weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, for anybody out there who loves dairy and gluten like I do, is a change. But yeah, so basically that's what I changed up. Nothing special though.
Well, that's the first thing. You started fasting. You mentioned two other. There were three things. So there's two other things you changed. What are the other two things?
So Doug, first of all, fasting. When you and I ran together in that marathon in 14.
Yep.
And after that, compared to the recent marathon, I'm about I'd say about 40 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
35 to 40 pounds lighter than I was.
Yeah.
During all those races.
Yep.
And anybody out there who was training, I could run 40, 50 miles a week and still not lose more than maybe 2 pounds. So fasting, Doug, was the first thing. Second thing was changing up my plan. I would do a 4-month plan as opposed to 6 months, and this was a
Really?
Nike. Yep,
Really?
correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
a shorter plan by 2 months.
shorter plan. A Nike plan that required 2 speed workouts a week. So instead of doing 1 speed workout out a week, I would do 2.
Wow. Okay, I'm all ears right now because
All right. Okay.
this seems very counterintuitive to, or very contrary to, the lion's share of marathon plans that I've been exposed to. To do 2 speed sessions a week, that seems like a way overkill for a marathon. But tell me more about it. Give me more
Now,
details.
Doug, well, first of all, like I have read about this before, and there are experts who believe that 1 to 2 workouts a week in terms of speed is appropriate. Maybe one was more daunting than the other, but the point is, it'd be 2 different workouts a week in regards to speed.
Okay.
And they change it up every time. It was a fartlek. It was maybe like 6 by 1,000. I mean, it was all intricate. At the point where I had to write it down on my hand,
Yeah.
or keep it in my pocket while I ran because there was so much. That I'm telling you, that helped me push through that barrier.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, I do think that especially older runners, like Masters and Plus, do let the speed element. They figure like, oh, I'm losing my speed, so I just won't do any and just concentrate on the volume. And that's a huge mistake because, like, I'm not saying that like speed is not a factor. It definitely is a factor in marathon because you got to think, if you're like, speed work enhances your form, right? Your muscle fiber recruitment. So
It does.
So if you're popping, you gotta figure, if each stride is popping, you do a lot of strides over 26.2 miles. So if you're more efficient with those strides, efficiency is the name of the game in the marathon. So that's gonna help. So I'm not saying that speed, but the 2 a week is what surprises me because
well, Doug, it is.
I would think one. I would think one at max.
Right. So it is also possibly sometimes it is 1 week it is hills and speed. For instance, like this is the first week, right? The first week of this plan, which by the way, there is no like levels, like beginner, intermediate, advanced. It's kind of like,
Where'd you find this plan?
this is Nike plan. This is like a free plan I found online.
On Nike's website? Or
If you type in marathon plans, Nike has a PDF version, and basically it's just there.
okay.
So basically, Doug, the first week. Here's an example. The first week, right? And by the way, Doug, I'm sorry. It's 4.5 months is the plan.
Okay.
First week, speed workout is 800 meters at 10K, 2 by 400 at 5K, 4 by 200 at 5K, 2 by 400 at 5K, and 800 at 10K pace. Okay.
Okay.
The hill workout is 1.5 mile tempo run, 7-minute recovery, long hill at your 10K pace, shorter hill at your 5K pace, and shorter hill at your mile pace, times 2, essentially. So
Okay.
these are things that I did. Like, it could be 2 speed, it could be a hill and a speed, but every single week, which I've
hills.
never done.
Yeah, I mean, hills are, they say it's speed work in disguise.
As you know.
Yeah. Yeah, as I know today when I was doing them, and I almost had to reach down and move my leg up because my fast twitch fibers were just not were not there.
Right.
So yeah, but okay, that's interesting because I have heard of the get fast first approach to marathon training, where it's kind of what you've been talking about, where it's, you do focus on that. You don't do exhausting like VO2 max workouts. You're doing workouts that are just designed to get your brain and body comfortable running faster, and that will come into play during your distance workouts where you're just going to be more efficient. You're just going to be a little bit more faster, and those workouts are going to go better as a result. So it sounds to me like that really paid dividends. And also it probably helped you lose weight, right? Because you were fueling up the fire. You were burning hot, and that probably helped you drop some pounds, right?
Possibly. I can't say for sure, but I believe that it. But then that was 18 weeks of every week 2 of these things. But so that was the second thing, and I mean, like, for me, it's like looking at a new plan. I was like, I have nothing to lose. Like, I've been doing the same kind of plans for 5 years.
Okay, I want to stop you there. The same kind of plans. Give me those in a nutshell. What did those consist of? And how do they contrast with the Nike plan that you found?
The brain training plan. It's a 6-month plan. They start you out with like hill workouts once a week, and then that kind of like levels off completely. And it's 1 speed workout a week. Nothing was that much different in those plans as opposed to the Nike plan, but I do believe that like the 2 speed workouts a week was probably like part of this whole thing. So the brain training plan is what I used. And I believe it's all I.
That's Matt Fitzgerald.
Correct.
Is the author of that one.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, like, that's what I've used forever now.
So you stuck with that plan for the subsequent marathons?
I believe I did that. I might have done a cool running plan that was similar. But my problem was I was not running. First of all, there were weeks where I wouldn't do all the miles. There were weeks where I wouldn't. Back in the day, the Nike plan, I followed probably everything to a T.
Okay, now that's huge right there. That's very telling to me, because it sounds like you were much better about execution, which is huge. That's everything. Because right. I've been there. I've done plans where, I did some of the workouts and I took days off, whatever. But like I mentioned in the check-in, when running becomes every day or most days of the week, like you're running, 5 to 7 days a week, you're getting that consistency of aerobic development that it changes your body, which it did for you, clearly. Along with your fasting, of course. It was one factor.
Doug, I honestly believe, in my heart, I believe that the fasting was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I think, and I can't say for certain, but I feel like the multiple speed workouts a week was great, but like I feel like losing the 40 pounds was probably the reason why I had my PR.
Yeah, well, I wish I could just rattle off the stats here, but it's well established that for every pound you have in the marathon, that's like so many seconds a mile that it's slowing you down. Over 26.2 miles, that adds up to a lot of time. That is many minutes. And so dropping 40 pounds is a huge deal for the marathon. So that definitely helped you. Without a question. But so you mentioned, okay, so there's the fasting, the Nike plan with kind of more of a focus on the speedier stuff.
Right.
What was you mentioned a third one, change that helped you.
The shoes. Maybe. So these Reebok lightweight racing shoes, I've always only used regular long distance
trainers.
Yeah. and this is the first time I've used lighter weight. And again, I did prep for this one. I did spend about 3 weeks maybe with these shoes here and there. They are designed for, I mean, racing. They're designed for speed. But I noticed that wearing the racing shoe might have gave me a level up a little bit, as you know, because you've worn racing shoes during your races.
Yeah, and this actually ties into your weight again, because the heavier you are, the more you cannot get away with wearing a lighter, like a flat type shoe, because
Right.
there's more impact that's going to be jarring your muscles and bones and ligaments and such. But if
Right,
you're
right, right.
lighter, you can get away with wearing a racing flat, which definitely helps. It makes you feel fast. It makes each step a little peppier, and you're taking so many steps during a marathon. If you can make your step peppier, it's going to help you get faster. So I definitely think wearing a racing flat is great for a marathon if you have your weight under control. So what did you wear, by the way?
They were actually, Doug. Give me 1 minute, okay? Hold
Yeah,
on.
sure,
Stay right
sure,
there.
sure. And I think for the marathon that I qualified for Boston for, it was the Asics. What is the Asics, like Hyperflight or something like that? Hyperspeed. It was the Asics Hyperspeed, and I trained in them. I did some long
All
runs in
right.
them to make sure I was
So,
prepared. Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
all right. So these are the Reeboks. They're called Reebok Speed Day. Uh, these are the float ride, if you will, as they're called.
So those are
These
the shoes
are
you wore in the main marathon that you BQ'd?
correct. Correct.
Okay.
As you'll see in that photo. Uh, correct.
All right, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back for a second here. Okay, so those actually look like they got some pretty good cush on them. They don't look
They
super
do.
minimal.
No, not super.
Yeah.
But these are, I mean, I was reading about in terms of like racing shoes, and these are, I mean, apparently these are one of the best you can wear. Pros use it all around the world. They are reasonably priced, uh, which I'm actually surprised about, but they are reasonably priced.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking for, like, in terms of training, a shoe like this. For the first time ever, I actually like lighter shoes.
First time ever, really. Because I've been training
Yeah,
in the Saucony Kinvaras are kind of like
yeah.
my go-to. Like I like training in them. They're light, but they got some cush, and they feel great. So I don't. When I was, a while ago, when I was training, I would wear the Saucony like rides, I think they're called,
Yep.
which are your traditional trainers. A little clunkier, a little heavier, and I've kind of gone away from them in the favor of more lighter. The lighter the better in terms of, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're looking to the pounding. If the pounding is becoming an issue, well, that's a different story. You gotta look to that. You
Right,
potentially
right.
get some Hokas or something like that, but lighter the better.
I I think they feel great. They look, I don't know, they look great in terms of, like, I don't know. I had the Sauconys before, and they are clunkier. They are bigger.
The rides,
Um,
not the
the rides,
Camaros. Yeah,
the rides. I had
yeah,
that. But these types of shoes, which again, this is mostly for racing. Um, but there are shoes out there like this that people can relate to and actually want to use. Uh,
yeah. So when you were getting your shoe, I was mentioning that I raced a couple of my marathons in the Asics Hyper Speeds, which are, I would
yeah,
say, even lighter than the ones you showed. But they have cush. They have some cushion on the bottom. So that's
Right.
really kind of I think the sweet spot is you got to have some cushion, but as light as possible, even for the marathon.
Right.
Yeah. I think for Boston, I tried to wear something that was a little more sturdy. I think that was a mistake, but Boston has some downhill in it, so I wanted to be a little on the safe side. But anyway, okay, so I think we got your three things, buddy. Now,
Yeah.
now the story is so you qualified in October, which was just after the window to qualify for this year's Boston, which has been pushed to October.
Correct. Correct.
So you have qualified for next year's Boston, which will, I guess, probably be in April like it normally is on Patriots Day. Are you going to run it?
Yeah, I'm gonna run it. If they're gonna have it, I'm gonna run it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do for years now. Which anybody out there, again, who strives to run marathons,
Yeah.
Has thought about it. My time, will get in.
Yeah, it will. It definitely will. What was it? 301 something?
301, I believe 30, maybe, I don't know, 6 or something.
Yeah, and what's the qualification time for you? Like 3:15 at your age?
No. It was 310. They changed.
3:10?
They pushed up the requirements 5 minutes.
By up you mean faster.
Correct, faster.
That'll get you in. That'll get you in.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about that part. It's a matter of will they have it next April, and if they don't have it next April, looking forward to doing it, I guess, in the fall, just in case. But I will run this. I will get all the bling I can possibly get, and the
Adidas jacket. You gotta get the jacket. That's the main thing.
The full uni. Now, will I still kind of like look at, and this is a controversial subject, maybe for another time, of who gets in. Thousands of people who get in because they raise money. If you're a runner and you qualify, you don't get in, people say, how dare you even question the people out there who are raising money, which is kind of the moral dilemma. But if you're training, 4, 5, 6 months for a race and you qualify.
Yeah, as you met, this is a can of worms, but I understand that a race has got to do what it's got to do to raise money, and obviously the charities, they're doing great work.
Absolutely.
But that said, the fact that somebody who gave money or knew somebody in an organization that got some tickets or spots or whatever gets in over somebody who grinded the miles and did the work for a month on end. To runners, I think that does chafe us a little raw. And I certainly, I mean, if I was in a position like you were back in 2014, I mean, that would sting for sure, as I know it did sting you.
I thought, Doug, based upon the history of this race, that I was fine. And I knew basically for almost a year after that I wasn't.
Yeah.
But they did, however, they did increase the amount of runners
that they let into the race.
Correct, which I thought was great. But I'm still, I have my own opinions about this. And again, people who only understand are people who've actually run and qualified.
Oh yeah. People don't. I often wonder if people who get in by like charity or whatever, if they really like realize who they're going to line up with, because Boston it's just different than any other marathon you take part in, where you are corralled by your qualification time. You know what I mean? It's not like you show up and we're all gonna like
show up,
get all together and run it. It's very, it's rigidly seated. You earn your corral, you earn your number, and I just wonder if like people who get in by charity, Do they even think of that? Or they're just like, oh, I'm doing Boston. I can get
Yeah,
into Boston.
I just and the thing about that is, if anybody questioned them,
Oh,
they might say, "Oh, how dare you? I raised money for charity," which you're kind of an asshole if you basically question it. But if you are a
right.
runner, like I did,
Yeah.
I was salty for months,
Yeah, I bet. I
and
know you.
telling you before going to Boston the following year, and seeing all of these people, and
I was
it's
gonna
like,
take you here, but you're going here on your own.
I'm bringing it.
All right.
And fresh off the wound of knowing you will not get in,
Yeah.
and seeing people that
Correction. That you qualified, but you got bumped.
correct.
Yeah.
Being in Boston and looking at people who have the gear on, and they're downing frappuccinos, they're doing this, and it's like, I mean, I don't know these people, but you can tell as a runner who qualified, who didn't.
Oh yeah.
And many people I saw, I just feel like probably did not qualify for this race. Yet, if anybody ever questioned them directly, they'll pull the "How dare you" card.
Oh wow.
I raised $2,000 for this, which is great. Again, great charity, as you and I both know.
Yeah.
But being a runner, I'll not apologize for being salty at this. I can't do it.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I hear you. Um, you know, people who haven't done the work that it takes to qualify for Boston, let alone like multiple years, attempting to qualify for Boston, they just have no idea. They have no idea that it's basically a part-time job to put in the miles, to do the workouts, and they just don't understand, and they never will unless they actually do it. To qualify for Boston is a commitment. It's a commitment that you work for. That's what makes Boston so special, to run Boston, because when you line up in Hopkinton, right? That's the town it starts in, I think. When you line up that you earned it, everybody around you earned it, and it feels good. It feels good. So I hope that you run it. I know you might have some life changes ahead that could move you around or whatever, but I hope that you do. I hope that you do.
Yeah,
Because you earned it. You definitely earned it. You crushed it. You crushed Maine. And just for people who are listening, the Maine Marathon is not, I wouldn't call it like hard, but it's not pancake. It's not one of these pancake flat. It's not like Chicago Marathon. There's definitely, especially, it's kind of ironic because there's a half marathon that runs with a marathon, and the half marathoners actually, they'll run like a little hill and then they turn around, and the marathoners keep going, and then it starts getting,
I think this is a whole new subject in terms of like half marathon and relay, and marathon mixed together.
Yeah.
I've got my little issues with that. What'd she say?
My wife Rachel is eye rolling me about something.
Oh, what? Ask her what she's saying. What?
Yeah. What was that, honey?
It's not that small of a hill.
Oh, she said the half marathon, the hill that the half marathoners have to run, because she's run the main marathon. She's run the main half a couple times. She said it's not that small of a hill.
I ran that half as well, and I died. I mean, again, like first half marathon ever was that race, and that hill to turn back to go the way, that was tough. That was back then. That was tough.
Yeah, but the marathon keeps going, and there's more.
The crowd's all there. Everyone just busts past you, but the marathoners just kind of keep going.
Keep going. That's what they do.
The crowd is mostly going to be in that half spot, but you kind of just keep going, and some guy may blow past you on that hill, and he turns around, but you just
All right, Brett. So we're at the top of the hour here. We're gonna keep. Can you keep going a little bit longer tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I got to go back to the when we ran Maine together
Okay.
in 2014. This was like the only marathon I'd say that was actually fun, because you and I think it was our first marathon. We were not a little, I at least was pretty intimidated by, wow, we're like going to run 26.2 miles. Can we do this? You know, are we going to break down? Because most people who run a marathon, you don't run 26.2 miles in training ever. You know, elites like pro runners might. So we, like, it's kind of surreal thinking about it, buddy, because we were like cracking jokes for like the first half. We took it pretty easy. I don't know what pace we were running at, but it was in the 7s, I believe. And, you know, we were like joking. There was some guy who was running the half who like, we kept like catching up to him, and then he kept surging, and then we'd like catch up with him. He kept surging. We're like, dude, chill out. We're running 26.2. Okay, relax. We're not your competition. Luckily for you.
That guy.
You remember that? Like he kept like surging, and I'm like, calm down. We're not even.
Full yellow uni with the fanny pack and the headphones, and he just surged past us on that hill.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? It was surreal.
Yeah.
We were 5 miles in.
Yeah.
Maybe 6, and like this guy surges past us with the full thing, the full, you know, get up.
Yeah. But it wasn't just one. He didn't just surge once. Like he's the first time we kind of came near him, and he surged, and then we kind of like caught up to him. He faded a little bit, and then he surged again. And this happened like a few times. And I'm like, look at our bib. Okay, our bib's white, and yours is yellow, meaning we're running the full marathon. You're running the half. You know, don't worry about us, man. You know, like, we're not running your race.
We're not trying to beat you in the hill. Like, we got a long ways to go, my man. Yeah. I don't know what he thought. But Doug, I mean, that was one part of it, right?
Yeah.
Casual, the first, and we weren't really like, in terms of placing, we were not great in that first.
No. We were definitely taking it slower than I think what we were fit for, but it ended up working out pretty well for us. But we definitely, I think, let the fact that this was our first marathon keep us in check. For sure. But we, you know, like I said, we kind of ran along for that first half, cracking jokes. And I remember distinctly that when we got to the turnaround point, you know, the half marathon point at 13.1, and we're turning around, I made a comment to you like, okay, now the race begins. And there was there was a older gentleman nearby us who said, you still got, you know, you're going to be done if you think like that. Like, I'll scrape you off the pavement at mile 20 or whatever.
It was this Pops with his daughter or whatever.
Yeah, yes.
and I'm like, relax, Gary, whatever. Like, relax. But we knew what we were doing. We hit that halfway mark. And, of course, that guy almost like fueled the fire a little bit. Because clearly, I'm sorry, my man, you're gonna run a 4-hour, 15-minute marathon. We're not going for that.
Yeah, we trained. We did train for this. We did take it easy the first half, and now we're gonna put down the hammer a little bit.
I think the most fun part of that race back in 2014 was that last half where we just picked off. I would say at least 50 people.
Yeah, and that's something why, like, a lot of people will tell you that the ideal marathon is a slightly positive split. And I'll kind of be like, okay, maybe, but the line between running a slightly positive split and bonking and crashing hard in the second half is a very thin line. And if you if you plan to run a negative split and you run your first half intentionally, like, slower, not only are you going to feel better, but the psychological boost you get passing person after person after person after group after group after group, it's huge. And we experienced that in 2014, where we were just not just passing people, we were like zooming by them. And
it was like a surreal experience, that last half, with, again, almost 2,000 runners roughly maybe in that race, and we end up finishing probably in the top maybe 20s or 30s, I believe.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we would see people a quarter mile ahead, and we would know that we're going to pass them.
Reeling them in.
And we were doing what, -7 splits in
we were
that
doing
last
no
half?
we were running sixes. We were running high sixes. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We
under
were
7.
when my Garmin, I was checking them, we were running low 7, like high 6s, I would say, for the second half of the marathon. We were very strong.
We played that, and I felt, Doug, it's weird though that my last marathon was at least probably 8-9 minutes faster. I still felt like as good.
Yeah.
In both races.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we played that exactly, and that's a whole other topic later on. Is how do you approach
the pacing?
A marathon?
Yeah.
How do you approach the pacing?
Yeah. And yeah, that was great. And then, we finished. I missed BQ for my age group, but like a couple minutes. You got it, but it was just. I'll always remember that marathon as like a fun, just a great, like almost like a celebration of running with you.
Right.
So I'll always remember that race.
Yeah, I mean, Doug,
fondly.
it'd be great to run a race together. I mean, I won't say together. You would still smoke me by 20 minutes.
Well, not right now, buddy. I got a long way to go.
I'm saying, but I mean, hey, maybe in the future, if I can get that. If I can actually run 50 miles a week for the first time ever, which I've been running 40 miles a week for these marathons, to be honest.
Yeah.
35 to 40 miles. If I can get that training up, we could be reasonably, somewhat a little closer.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It'd be great to do a race. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe our future podcast is if we actually had a race in mind together.
To live stream it. I tell you what, I don't know if my wife's getting me one, but I said for for my birthday or Father's Day, I want a GoPro, which is do you know what a GoPro is?
The GoPro. You want to have like the
the stick. I know. But like have like a GoPro on like a stick that you like run with and kind of talk to as you run. We could do that kind of thing. That'd be cool. That'd be cool to do that for a race. Yeah. Imagine if we had done that for Maine in 2014. That would have been epic. And captured it all on camera.
Wait a minute. You ran the Vermont Marathon. I was there.
Yeah.
And I watched somebody with a selfie stick, and I was just like, "What are you doing?" So
dude, I hear you. I've had those same thoughts, but I have changed my mind. I have changed my attitude regarding that.
What if it was a multiple race thing, or one race we didn't have the GoPro or selfie stick, and one race we kind of simply ran together?
Yeah. Well, no, like a race where we're like running together. I feel like that is the ideal race to have, like a GoPro where we're talking to each other and talking into it.
That is exactly.
Yes, that would be beautiful. But I
want a race as well where we are going.
Yeah. Well, that's different. If we're throwing down and trying to run a marathon hard, then no, you're not. I'm not holding a selfie stick during that.
I'm saying that there's a chance, Doug, that possibly we could do in the future maybe a race where we do both.
That sounds great.
One race we are going
hard.
Ham. In one race we are simply running together at a slower pace.
But even the race where we're going hard, we can still capture the before. I could hand the GoPro to my wife, and she
Absolutely.
could capture us running at various points, and then us at the end. So yeah, definitely, I think it's definitely something for the future. But okay, it's we're past well past the hour now. Thanks for staying on a little extra. And you know what? I'm gonna skip the miles ahead segment for tonight, because I think we're pretty much just continuing on in our kind of in between nirvana phase of there's no race in the horizon. We're just kind of, I know I'm just kind of doing 20-25 miles a week if I can get it, trying to get back fitness and lose some weight. And I know you're kind of just maintaining with your 20 miles a week. So let's leave it at that. Any final words before we end the stream?
Final words, keep at it. It'll only get hotter outside,
Yeah.
so stay safe, stay prepared, hydrated, etc.
Absolutely. And if you've ever thought about BQing for Boston, it's absolutely possible. Just do the work, keep at it, as Brett did, and, be smart, change your approach as is needed, and you'll definitely get there. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you next week. Take care.